Disastrous discovery. A haunted door exposed on the ocean floor. What lurks beyond? Elise's heartbeat echoed in her ears as she stood on the deck, staring into the abyss that was Crescent Isle's harbor. The sun glinted on the water's surface, tranquil and inviting, but an unseen terror bubbled beneath. The locals spoke in hushed tones about an ancient shipwreck and a ghostly door hidden deep below, one that held a sinister legend. The water threatened to swallow secrets. Her husband had been one of those missing when the whispers began, lost, presumed drowned, into the eerie depths. Max, her teenage son, tugged at her sleeve, his curiosity piqued. "Mom, are you ready? I promise it'll be fun." She wanted to say no, to shield him from the darkness that loomed over them, but she couldn't bear his disappointed eyes, nor the fractured bond that had grown between them since his father vanished. Reluctantly, she nodded, hoping the dive would bind them together again. As they slipped into the emerald depths, excitement surged through her veins, mixing with fear. The instructor's voice bubbled through the water, full of exuberance, detailing their path. But the deeper they swam, the more Elise felt that shiver skittering down her spine, the kind that made your instincts scream, "Get out." Her chest tightened as she began to see the outline of something unusual on the ocean floor. A door. Smooth, pristine, utterly out of place. Strangely contrasting the decay of the surrounding wreckage, it stood tall like an ominous sentinel guarding secrets best left hidden. Max's eyes widened, filled with an awe that sent a jolt of panic through Elise. A chill radiated off the door, slithering up her skin. She instinctively reached out, compelled by an ancient force, her mind echoing the warning the instructor's voice had whispered just moments before. Fabled forces prey on those desperate for answers. Their bubbles tinted the silence of the water, but soon, the pressure of the moment began to drown Elise. They surfaced, panting, her heart pounding with newfound fear. Home felt different. Spirits lingered in the corners of her existence, waiting. Max became a stranger in their own house, shadows lengthening in his gaze, whispers echoing from his room at night. "Mom," he murmured. Tears pricked at her eyes as dread gnawed at her sanity. This was no ordinary grief. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue." Desperation clawed at her mind as she pieced together fragments of worry. Townspeople had vanished over the years, linked to that door. She confronted the mayor, but the tight-lipped silence of officials, the knowing glances shared among them, set a chill into her bones. She fought against paranoia rising in her throat, unwilling to believe those she once trusted could harbor such dark secrets. Days melted into anguish until Max disappeared, leaving behind a note filled with dark sketches and sorrowful phrases. Panic surged through Elise as she rushed to the water's edge, glancing at the door haunting her thoughts. With midnight approaching, the lure of the ocean pulled her closer. The door, submerged yet beckoning, whispered promises of answers and dangers intertwined. She felt the weight of her looming choice pressed down, heart racing as shadows danced in the gathering dark. What awaited beyond that threshold? In that moment, Elise understood, some doors should never be opened. A dark cloak of night enveloped the harbor, wrapping Crescent Isle in a shroud of uncertainty. The gentle lap of the waves against the dock sounded like the whispers of the lost, relics of her past clawing for acknowledgement. Elise's breath quickened as she stood at the edge of the water, the moonlight casting silvery ripples on the surface. She felt the pull of the abyss beneath the door, the weight of dread pushing her forward, yet the shadows of doubt held her back. What if, a fleeting thought skidded through her mind, what if Max had walked through that door? Each passing second felt like an eternity. Her fingers traced the rough wood of the dock as she fought to grasp the panic surging within her. "Max," she called, voice cracking against the night. Silence was her only answer. The stillness enveloped her like a noose, constricting her throat, threatening to squeeze all hope from her heart. She could almost hear her son's laughter echoing in the back of her mind, a haunting reminder of happier times. Determination surged through her veins. She would not let this fear swallow her whole. She plunged into the water, a last-ditch attempt to pull Max back from the brink. The cold tore through her, startling her senses. She dove deeper, reaching for the threshold she feared yet longed to confront. Holding her breath, she found the door. The thrill of discovery mixed with terror coursed through her. As previous revelations struck, she knew she was only a heartbeat away from confronting everything she had dreaded. The form of the door loomed larger, its surface smooth and unnervingly inviting. She reached out, fingertips brushing against the cool surface. In that instant, the water around her surged violently, a tempest unleashed by an unseen force. Elise gasped as icy fingers of the ocean gripped her, pulling her toward the door, as if eager to swallow her whole. With every ounce of strength, she fought against the current. Old memories filled her mind. Max's smile, his joy. The elemental bond of a mother's love made her defy the pressure. Elise grasped the handle, its coldness biting into her palm like the grasp of lost souls. The door shuddered against her pull. Whispers fluttered around her, muffled voices resonating from the shadows beyond. "Mom, you have to let go." Her heart raced. They were Max's words. "No, I want to lose you." Panic ricocheted in her chest. Ignoring deeper instincts, she twisted the handle, praying she would find her son on the other side. The door creaked open, revealing darkness thicker than anything she had known, an unfathomable void that seemed to pulse with malevolence. Shadows reached toward her like hands clawing through the depths. Elise hesitated, feeling the weight of generations before her, souls lost to curiosity. Then came the laughter, joyful, taunting, echoing in a familiar tone. Her son? "Mom, come play." Elise's heart stopped. The voices were turning playful, welcoming, yet laced with an undertone so twisted it made her skin crawl. She teetered on the edge, closer to madness than resolution. Should she step through, the line between love and danger blurring before her very eyes? With darkness pooling around her, Elise felt the door's gravity increase, her need to step inside teetering on the edge of sanity. Could it be him? Or was it something far more sinister calling her forth? The choice loomed: open the door and plunge into the unknown, or return to the surface, bearing the weight of loss like a suffocating shroud. But then, out of the shadows emerged a familiar face. Mom. As she grappled with this haunting revelation, a chilling realization settled in. Some echoes of the past might never return. What awaited them on the other side? Would she grasp salvation or surrender to the sins of the ocean? Elise stood at the brink, heart thundering in her chest. The face before her, so achingly familiar, shimmered like an illusion in the dark water. "Mom." His voice curled around her like the tendrils of the shadows, sweet, yet haunting, an invitation and a warning all at once. "Max." She managed to whisper, the name catching in her throat. She reached out, desperate, fingers trembling as they sought his warmth. But the surface shimmered, distorting his features, teasing her with the promise of connection while holding her in suspense. "Come play," he said again, his smile bright but somehow wrong, the shadows dancing in the depths behind him. The darkness around the door surged, pulling at her like 1,000 hands, hunger lurking beneath. For a brief second, every instinct screamed at her to turn away, to find her way back to the safety of the surface. Yet the echo of Max's laughter rang clear, cutting through her hesitation. "It's fun here, Mom. You'll love it." His eyes sparkled, but a flicker of something dark danced there, an unspoken truth lurking just beneath the merriment, like a predatory fish waiting to strike. The icy grip of uncertainty tightened around her heart. What if it was truly him? What if every horror swirling in the depths was simply her mind conjuring demons? She longed to believe in the illusion that was her son, desperately wishing to cling to the happiness they once shared. But then, from behind him, shadows wriggled. Figures emerged, faces twisted with longing and despair. They reached for her, mouths agape, begging for release. There was no joy in their eyes, only an eternity of sorrow. "Help us," they cried, their voices merging into a chorus of despair that echoed through the ocean. The water roiled, and Elise's pulse raced. "What have I done?" she thought, terror seeping into her bones. "Mom, don't listen to them." Max's voice sliced through the clamoring chaos. They want to hold you down. Don't let them. Come, please. Something in the urgency of his request snapped her from her paralysis. She wanted to believe in him, to believe in their bond that transcended the darkness. But could she risk everything on a flickering hope? The door loomed larger, sinister in its promise. Its surface rippled like it was alive. Churning thoughts swirled, his voice urging her to stay, the shadows pulling her down. Elise! A distant voice drifted from above, breaking through the panic. Elise, come back. It was a lifeline thrown from the surface. The timbre was familiar, a desperate plea not unlike Max's, but anchored in reality. Sarah, her closest friend, was up there, back on the dock. Suddenly, the decision crystallized. She was caught between two worlds, the one above, the one below, teetering on the edge of love and madness. With a grimace that twisted her features, she pulled back from the door, the icy grip loosening over her. But the laughter grew louder, more chaotic, echoing around her. You can't leave us. The shadows wailed, voices melding into something monstrous, grasping at her with whispered threats. Pieces of memories begun flashing before her. Sarcastic banter with Sarah, bedtime stories with Max. Anguish flooded her heart. Bubbles erupted around her, urging her to ascend. Elise kicked hard, fighting against the darkness, against the screams of the restless, not looking back, pushing for the sliver of light above. The surface neared. Hope swelled in her chest. One last gasp, one last thrum of strength. She could almost feel the warmth of the dock against her fingers. But just as she broke the surface, a shriek shattered the night. A cold hand clasped her ankle tight, unyielding. Mom! Elise's breath caught, and a surge of panic shot through her. They were not done with her yet. What new horror awaited her from the shadows? What would they unleash now that she tasted the allure of their world? Elise gasped, the icy grip on her ankle tightening like a vice. Terror shot through her veins, every instinct shouting at her to pull away, but the darkness beneath roared with hunger. 1,000 whispers clawed at her mind, scraping against her sanity. She kicked fiercely, every ounce of strength pouring into breaking free. Max! She screamed, desperately searching for his face in the chaos, but it was lost among the silhouettes of despairing souls rising from the depths. His laughter was gone, replaced by the chilling wails of the shadows threatening to consume her. The hand on her ankle yanked harder, pulling her back into the abyss. The surface slipped away as Elise fought, her chest tightening with each precious breath she struggled to take. She clawed at the water, determination fueling her, and with one last desperate lunge, she broke free from the deep's grasp. The echoes of the tortured cries faded slightly, but lingered like a spectral fog. Flopping onto the dock, she gasped for air, the cool night momentarily grounding her. Sarah's face hovered over her, panic etched in. Elise, what happened? I thought I lost you. Panic started to ebb as the reality of the surface comforted her. But then, a shudder coursed through her, the shadows pulsing menacingly at the edge of her vision, trying to lure her back. Elise bolted upright, heart hammering, scanning the surface water. Max! She cried, voice breaking. A part of her knew he was still down there. What had she left behind? Those shadowy figures clawed for her, anchored in their nothingness. But it was Max's torment that twisted her soul. Oh my God, Elise. You shouldn't have gone in there. We need to get out of here, Sarah urged, pulling her to her feet. The two stumbled back, feet slipping on the damp dock. No, I have to go back. I can't leave him. Elise's voice trembled, desperation fueled by a mother's instinct. Listen to me. Sarah's grip became firm, shaking her for emphasis. If you go down there again, you might not come back. You heard them, they want you. They want to keep you. With each word spoken, the echo of the figures returned. The air felt thicker, almost suffocating. Elise's breaths quickened. What if they were right? Shadows loomed at the edge of her mind, and underneath the pull of the abyss, a truth flickered. Dark promises hid behind familiar faces. No, Elise cried, fighting against Sarah's hold, her heart battling her mind. I need to know. I can't leave him to them. Before Sarah could respond, the water rippled, a sudden calmness settling over the dock. Elise stiffened, staring into the depths, where something was stirring beneath the surface. Do you see that? She pointed, trembling. A shape was rising, gliding through the water with purpose. Was it Max? But as the figure broke the surface, a new scream echoed the innocence of Max's face, distorted, twisted into an unnatural grimace of agony. The air turned icy as the shadows erupted around him, thrumming with dark energy. "Rise, Elise." The shadows cried together, their voices a chilling harmony. "Join us." Elise's blood ran cold. They were promising her something insidious. "Mom," the voice trembled, broken with despair. It looked like Max, but the shadows danced around him, wrapping tighter, feeding on the confusion. "Fight it, baby," Elise yelled, tears streaming down her face. Fight them. Would he hear her? Could love break through that darkness? Or would her choice seal their fate forever? In that moment, she felt the weight of the shadow, drawing her back to the door. Would she rescue her son, or lose herself to the abyss for good? A single pulse of dread echoed through the silence. "Come." The darkness beckoned, louder now, as the door loomed once again. Elise stood at the precipice, torn between the voice she loved and the encroaching madness of the dark depths. What sacrifice would she make to save her boy? Would she risk everything in a world where shadows unspooled the threads of sanity? The door was waiting, quivering with anticipation. What horrors would unfurl if she took that step again? The world around Elise narrowed down to a single point, the iridescent surface of the water, where Max hovered, twisted and contorted, caught between realms. Shadows writhed around him, their whispers coiling into her mind, promising power, solace, reunion. But what could they take from her in exchange? Mom, the word was both a beacon and a dagger, stabbing at her heart. She could see him. He was there, submerged in torment, trapped beneath glistening waves with tormentors that thrived on despair. "Elise, please." Sarah's voice rang out, pulling Elise back, if only slightly. "You can't go back. He is not himself. You can't trust them." But how could she trust anything now? The shadows loomed large, their anticipation palpable. The very fabric of her being tugged in two directions, her son's love and the unfathomable danger of succumbing to darkness. "Come," the abyss cooed, its voice smooth like silk wrapping around her thoughts. The shadows danced closer, blurring lines between her reality and their seductive world. Elise felt herself listening, an involuntary pulse sending shudders through her body. But no, she wouldn't be swept away. Max's distorted face grinned unnaturally. The sweet boy she cherished faded into a gnarled caricature of agony. "Elise," he croaked again, this time hollow, almost mocking. "Help me stop," she shouted, drowning out the shadows. "Fight back, Max. You're stronger than this." For a moment, there was silence. The whispers receded, and the shadows hesitated. A fragile hope flickered within Elise, pushing against the consuming darkness. She could almost see faint glimmers around Max, fighting against the shadows, pulsating faintly. Then, a sudden pulse shot through the water. A surge of darkness exploded from beneath, erupting in a waterfall of chaotic color. The water glinted ominously, cold and inviting, like an open maw inviting her into its nightmare. Elise felt herself teetering on the brink, the weight of her despair threatening to pull her down. "Elise." Sarah's hand gripped her shoulder, the warmth grounding her, an anchor of reality. "We have to go? Now." But before they could move, the ground beneath their feet trembled. The dock creaked ominously, an old giant unwilling to bear witness to the dark spectacle. Crackles of laughter echoed from the depths as if the shadows were delighted at the unfolding chaos. "Join us," they sang, swelling around them like a storm. "Feed on your fear. Don't listen," Sarah shouted. Panic etched across her face as she pulled Elise back. "We can't do this." A snap thundered as a splinter broke off the dock. Elise felt her heart drop, both fear and resolve battling within her. She could almost hear Max's cries, intensifying, merging with the laughter of the abyss. And then she realized where there's darkness, there's also light. "Elise, listen to me." Sarah's voice broke through the cacophony, fierce and urgent. "We have to fight. We can't let them win." Elise stumbled back, eyes locked on the depths. What could she do? How could she save Max without being consumed by the very shadows that wanted her? But deep down, a dawning realization took root. Maybe, just maybe, the way to break their hold was to confront them, to resist with everything she had. Help me, Mom, the voice cried out again, the horror of distortion sharper than before. With a final surge, Elise faced the swirling shadows, her decision crystallizing like a shard of glass. I will not leave you, she shouted, body trembling. I won't let you take my son. The air crackled with energy as the shadows screamed in fury, shifting and writhing, their unity fracturing in the face of her defiance. The water roared, the abyss swallowing the cries of betrayal. The door loomed a gateway to their nightmarish abyss. Max. She dove forward, not towards the darkness, but internally, fueled by love. And yet, horror awaited her at the door, unseen dangers lurking just beyond what lay beyond that threshold. Would it be salvation or ultimate betrayal? Elise felt her heart thunder in her chest as she plunged into the cold water, the surface splintering into 1,000 shards around her. The darkness pressed in, a weight that tried to drag her down, but she fought against it with every ounce of love and desperation she had for Max. She screamed, but the water swallowed her voice, muffling it in the chilling depths. She looked around, eyes straining to pierce the thick obsidian gloom. There was something moving beneath her, a shadow, shifting and undulating, growing closer. Mom, the call echoed again, distorted and haunting. She could see traces of him, now faint outlines. The outline of Max submerged amid the grotesque shapes of the shadows that clung to him like parasites. Max, hold on. Her arms flailed, propelling her forward despite the icy grip of fear that crept up her spine. Each kick felt futile against the forces that pulled at her, as if the very water itself conspired to keep her from reaching him. Pull him up. Sarah's voice was a lifeline, cutting through the chaos. She wasn't down here, but she was still urging her on, pleading through the invisible thread that connected them. Elise felt the edge of reality fray around her. Panic clawed at her insides as she reached the twisted figure that was her son. What had they done to him? Max, fight. Just fight, she shouted, wrapping her fingers around his wrist. The heat radiating from her hand was a stark contrast to the icy fingers of the abyss claiming him. His body arched against the shadows, thrashing but not breaking free. There was a deep, guttural roar that resonated in Elise's mind, an angered, monstrous echo from the darkness. She felt the shadows tightening their grip, and with every second that passed, her hope flickered like a dying candle under a gusty wind. Suddenly, a ripple coursed through the water. The surface shimmered, catching the edges of light that glimpsed through the darkness. In that flicker, Elise saw Max's face shift, momentarily breaking through the torment. There was fear, yes, but also a glimmer of recognition. Mom, help, he rasped, his voice barely cutting through the sound of the abyss. I'm right here, she strained, fighting against the encroaching shadows that clawed at her arms. A blast of energy surged between them, something undeniable, something that sparked the dark waters with light. It was warmth in the cold, a beacon shining against despair. But the laughter came back, louder now, stronger, a shard of panic that stabbed at her resolve. Leave him, they taunted, their voices wrapping around her like barbed wire. He belongs with us now. Elise felt resistance building inside her. This was not just about saving Max. It was a battle for her own soul, too. They wanted to drag her down into the very depths of despair, to be lost like so many before her. No, she roared back, anchoring herself. She felt the shadows recoil, their laughter turning to shrieks as they divided. Confusion danced in their dark, swirling forms. You won't take us. With that surge of defiance, she yanked Max closer, adrenaline fueling her strength even as the shadows clawed back at them. But then, an unexpected quake rippled within the depths, as if the water itself was answering her outcry. The abyss gasped, a terrible fear rippling through. Elise felt it, an urgent call that resonated throughout the water, freezing everything in place. A figure loomed behind the shadows, rising closer. It was enormous, dark, its shape shifting like a predator in the depths, growing closer with each passing second. What is that? She thought, dread pooling in her gut. Would it help them, or was it another predator, just waiting to claim the two of them for itself? As the terrifying form surged forward, Elise's grip on Max tightened. Would she have the strength to confront not just the shadows, but what lay within their depths? And in that moment, teetering on the edge of darkness, The line between hope and doom blurred. Was she about to rescue her son, or guide him into a fate far worse than they feared? Elise's heart raced as the massive shape loomed closer, shadows stretching and warping as the figure unfurled. The water around her flickered with dying light, the darkness pulsing in a grotesque rhythm like a heartbeat of some ancient beast. Max. She pulled him tighter, trying to shield him from whatever horror approached. Panic churned in her gut as the icy tendrils of the abyss shrieked. It echoed with 1,000 lost souls, and Elise felt their despair clawing at her mind, a constant reminder of failure. Mom, I can't. Max's voice trembled against the cacophony, trying to reach her through the suffocating despair. Stay with me, don't let go. She fought back, determination flooding her veins. But it was as if the water had teeth, biting down harder, sucking away her strength. Then, the figure burst through the shadows. An entity shaped like a man, but racked with an otherworldly horror. Its eyes glowed a sickly yellow, burning through the darkness like lanterns illuminating a graveyard. Elise felt dread gnaw at her insides, fear stripping away her bravado. Its voice resonated in the water, deep and distorted, echoing through her bones. You seek your child. But do you seek to save him or to save yourself? What do you want? Elise shouted, even as the darkness pressed in around them, suffocating her resolve. They belonged to the depths now, the figure hissed, and suddenly, Elise saw flashes of faces in the shadows above. Faces of children lost, pleading tethered to the darkness, their eyes full of a void she could hardly comprehend. Join them. Let go of that which enslaves you. No. She saw it for what it was, a trap. An invitation into a despair so deep she wouldn't just lose Max. She would lose herself that a flicker of hope ignited within her. Max, fight. Remember the sun. Remember our home. She screamed, forcing herself to anchor her son's will against the monstrous pull of despair. Mom, I'm scared. His voice hitched as the shadows around him trembled, swirling as if wrestling with their own darkness. Channel that fear, Elise shouted, grasping onto the warmth of his wrist. Turn it into strength. The figure recoiled slightly, as if her words had struck it. You think love can defeat the shadows? It sneered, the laughter crashing around them like waves. But Elise could see the flickers of uncertainty, the shadows shimmering with doubt. With every fiber of her being, she knew now what she had to do. The power surged between them, vibrant and electric. She recalled the moments of joy, the small details that made Max her son, and poured that love into their bond like a lifeline. The shadows around her writhed, shrinking back from the light. No, the entity shrieked, its voice breaking with rage. You do not belong here. You belong in the dark. But Elise held firm, focusing all her energy into pulling Max from the darkness. She felt his warmth radiating back, feeding her strength. Suddenly, a violent wave washed over them, a rogue current bursting through the darkness, pushing back against the shadows. Mom, I can see you. Max strained against the tendrils that clung to him, fighting back, emerging from the brink. But just then, a tremor rippled through the water. The shadows stiffened, forming a swirling vortex that pulled them back. Your bond is strong, but it won't save you. The figure bellowed, an echo of fury that filled the blackness. We won't, Elise began, but horror washed over her as the figure lunged closer, its enormous form blocking any light, an inescapable dread licking at her mind. And then, in that fragile moment between hope and despair, she realized there was something hiding behind the shadow, something more terrifying than the darkness itself. What else lurks here? Elise's heart clenched. Max's expression shifted as the shadows whispered around him, and Elise's breath caught in her throat. Mom, look out. Would they face the figure together, or would they be swallowed whole by the secret seeping just beneath the surface of the abyss? Elise's eyes darted, scanning the swirling dark, hunting for a flicker of movement. The shadows churned, uneasy, waiting. She clutched Max's wrist tighter, heart thundering as the reality of their situation pressed down on her like a weight. What do you see? What is happening? She demanded, voice shaking but fierce. I don't know, Mom. Max trembled, eyes wide as he peered into the abyss that wrapped around them. There is something else that's big. I can feel it. A low rumble, like thunder under the surface, vibrated through the water. The entity shifted near them, its form undulating as if it were no longer an entity, but a manifestation of pure dread. The sickly glow of its eyes intensified, bathing them in a grotesque light as it spoke again, its voice tearing through the murky water. "You are running out of time. What you seek is lost." "Shut up," Elise screamed, feeling anger shoot through her. Rage ignited in her chest. "You have no power over us." But as she struggled to maintain her strength, the shadows coiled tighter around Max. He gasped, his face growing pale, shouldering the weight of despair. "Mom, I can't move. I can't." Desperation clawed at Elise. "Listen to me," she urged, locking eyes with him. "You have to find something. Something, anything. Focus on where we came from. Maybe it's a door." The entity flinched, and in that moment of uncertainty, Elise sensed a crack forming in its malevolence. "A door? You think a mere portal can save you?" It spat, laughter reverberating through the water as it edged closer, menacing and unyielding. "Please, Max. Look for any sign, any way to." But the shadows surged, and Elise felt herself being pulled back along with her son. The cold water threatened to swallow them whole, an insatiable maw seeking to consume. Just then, amid the chaos, Elise noticed a faint glimmer between the shadows, a shimmer, like light dancing on water. "There! Do you see that?" she shouted, pointing with urgency. Max swam towards it. He hesitated, eyes darting back to the looming horror that snaked around them. But Elise forced the warmth of her love into his heart, steadying him against the tide of terror. "Go," she urged, voice breaking but resolute. Together, they kicked against the crushing weight of darkness, feeling the irresistible pull of the abyss act as a counter to their determination. As they swam, Elise felt a change in the water, a fluidity that sent ripples of hope spiraling through her. Closer now. But the figure bellowed in rage behind them. "You think there is an escape? I will take what is mine." Elise wanted to look back, wanted to scream for him to stop, but there was no time. They surged towards the glimmer, diving deeper than they ever dared before. The pressure shifted, the shadows clawing at their heels. Desperate to reclaim their prey, as they broke through a narrow passage, Elise's breath caught in her throat. The glimmer changed, solidifying into a door, perfectly framed, suffused with a light that felt almost warm. "What is that?" Max whispered, all mingling with fear. "I don't know, but we have to get inside. Now," Elise shouted just as the entity shrieked again, drowning out her voice, its cries reverberating like an iron hammer. But as they reached the door, Elise's heart plummeted when she noticed the engraved emblem, a depiction of their family, trapped in the shadows of the past. This door was not a beacon, it was a prison. "Mom, what do we do?" Panic wove through Max's voice, urgency cascading along their bond. In that moment, the weight of choice bore down on her. The glimmering door called to them, a promise of safety or a trap. Would they risk it, step through the threshold, or stay and face the horrors lurking behind? As the darkness closed in, pushing, squeezing, Elise felt the horrid realization sink in. Survival meant sacrificing everything, a truth that lay just beyond the threshold, waiting to be revealed. "Max," she yelled, fear twisting her insides. "Do we trust it?" Behind them, the figure surged forward, shadows biting at their backs. "Go in," she screamed, and whatever lay beyond the door loomed closer with every heartbeat, dark and indulgent. But what if the real horror awaited on the other side? Elise reached for the door handle, cold and slick in her grip. The warmth that had tinged the edges of the door faded, replaced by a chilling certainty. Gritting her teeth, she glanced back at Max. His face was a mask of terror, wrapped in the shadows that loomed like a hungry predator. "On three," she shouted, heart racing. "1, 2, Mom." "Wait." Max's voice cracked, panic spilling over. "What if it's worse?" The shadows lurched closer, a writhing mass that pulsed with malevolence. Elise shook her head, defiance surging inside her. She couldn't afford to second-guess. She couldn't live with that choice, the choice to stay. 3. They pushed through, the doors swinging open, revealing a blinding light. For a moment, time froze. The brightness enveloped them, washing away the suffocating darkness. Then they were inside. The room was quiet, impossibly serene. Glossy tiles beneath their feet gleamed with an unnatural sheen, reflecting strange symbols they didn't understand. The air felt heavy, thick with an energy that both repelled and attracted. But there was no time to ponder. The echo of the entity's roar still vibrated in her ears. "Where are we?" Max whispered, eyes darting around, searching for something, anything. "I don't know, but we need to keep moving." Elise stepped forward, the tiles vibrating with each hesitant step, as if warning them of impending doom. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind them with a resounding thud. The sound reverberated, and Elise felt her heart drop. The oppressive weight of the outside darkness pressed against the door, as if it was fighting to reclaim its prey. "Mom, we shouldn't have come in here." Max's voice trembled, fear consuming him. "Elise," this is a voice echoed, not the entity from before, but something softer, chilling in its familiarity. It felt as if the room itself spoke, slithering through the air like a coiling snake. "Welcome." Elise recoiled, scanning the space for the source, but no figure emerged. It was as if the very walls conspired to keep them captive, shadows lurking just beyond their sight. "What do you want?" Elise demanded, her voice stronger than she felt. Everything the voice whispered, an echo of their worst memories twisting into a single word. A shimmer materialized above them, showing fractured images of her past family dinners long since extinguished by anger and resentment, moments of laughter overshadowed by treachery. Each image flickered, splintering her sanity. "No," she shouted, waving her arms in defiance. "You don't control us." Yet the images deepened, each flicker washing over her like a dark tide, trying to draw her back into shadows she fought so desperately to escape. She stumbled, grasping for Max's hand, pulled into the shifting memories that faded at her touch. "Mom, I can't," he gasped, caught in the emotional torrent, as the past clawed at his vulnerabilities, unearthing fears he had buried deep. Elise felt it too, a silent scream echoing through her, threatening to drown her. The helplessness, the despair, the guilt. "Max, focus. We need to fight it." His eyes reflected a storm, a swirl of emotions threatening to drag him under. "I don't want to relive this." "Neither do I," she growled. "But we have to remember why we're here." Suddenly, the room vibrated again, and the walls pulsed, as if they were breathing, alive with the torment of all who had come before. Elise stumbled, pulling Max closer, a rising dread creeping beneath her skin. "Do you feel that?" she whispered, realizing too late that this was more than a memory. It was a feeding ground for their worst fears. An inescapable trap. The voice crooned again. "You will become part of us." Elise trembled, heart racing as the shadowy tendrils crawled along the floor, reaching for them. They were out of time. "Max, follow me." They bolted to the far wall, where a blinding white swirl began to form. It pulsed with energy, a contrast against the darkness seeking to consume them. But the room itself seemed to shriek in protest, walls shaking, doors shifting. How could they escape? "Mom," cried Max, eyes wide with terror as they stumbled toward the swirl. "What happens if we go through?" "I don't know," she shouted back, desperation lacing her words. "But staying here isn't an option." Before stepping into the light, a thought flickered in her mind, a horrifying possibility. What if it leads us deeper? And as they leaped forward, she couldn't shake the feeling that whatever lay beyond had been waiting for them all along. What awaited them in the blinding light? Would it shatter their souls? Or perhaps uncover a truth too terrifying to face? Elise and Max hurtled through the blinding light, their hearts racing, fear and hope tumbling together like waves crashing on rocks. The moment they crossed the threshold, the world around them dissolved into a kaleidoscope of colors, a kaleidoscope of memories, moments of joy and sorrow intertwining, swirling together like a dance of shadows and light. "Where are we?" Max gasped, shielding his eyes from the radiance that surrounded them. "Don't know," Elise breathed, feeling the warmth wrap around her. But just as quickly, the brightness began to dim. Shadows encroached in the corners, their twisted forms writhing just out of sight. "No," she whispered, panic creeping in. "It's a trap." Instantly, the shadows morphed, coalescing into recognizable figures. Faces floated before them, lost souls, victims of the same darkness that had haunted her dreams. There were people from the townsfolk she had known, their eyes hollow, mouths open in silent screams. "Mom." Max's voice trembled as the familiar faces closed in, their fingers reaching with hollow desperation. "Fight it." Elise shouted, grasping his arm tightly. Remember why we're here. She willed love into her voice, urging him to push against the encroaching shadows. What do we do? He asked, eyes wild with fear, but his grip on her hand tightened instinctively. Together, she said firmly. We remember, and we move forward. They turned and ran, the shadows swirling behind them, whispering dark thoughts that twisted and turned in their minds. You'll never escape. You'll be lost just like the minnow. Elise shouted, shaking her head to dispel the encroaching darkness. Not today. With every ounce of will, they charged forward, the light flickering with intensity. They found themselves in a vast expanse, an ethereal chamber adorned with memories suspended in glass. Each image flickered, revealing moments that brought them joy mixed with sorrow. Their shared laughter, family vacations, simple moments of honesty. Their hearts swelled even as shadows darted to snatch those memories away. Hold on to them, she demanded, knowing they were crucial to their escape. As she searched for the way out, a glimmer of hope caught her eye. A door in the distance, radiant and pulsating like a beating heart. There, we can make it, she declared, pulling Max along, adrenaline fueling their resolve. Mom, his voice rang with uncertainty. What if it's just another trap? Then we face it together. They fought through the despair swirling around them, shadows snapping at their heels, desperately trying to pull them back into memories of pain. As they ran, a chill whispered through the air. The shadows were losing their grip. Elise could feel it. Every fragment of love they held was tearing at the dark tendrils that had coiled around them for far too long. But the figures of the lost began to merge into a single, ominous shape. The dark entity from before materialized, a horror with glowing eyes that seared into her soul. You cannot take their light from me, it bellowed, its voice echoing like thunder. Fight! Elise shouted against the growing din. We can't let them win. Max shouted back, Mom, stay with me. With those guiding words echoing in her mind, Elise forged ahead, the door now within reach. They crashed into it, the contact reverberating through their very beings. The door swung open, and they were met with flashbacks of their happiest moments. A flood of joy heartbreakingly familiar poured through them. Elise shielded her face, tears streaming down her cheeks, but a new warmth began to emanate from within her heart. Max, it's us. This is our love. It's our strength. We can use it. With all their memories pouring forth, a barrier of protection enveloped them. The shadows thrashed, grasping in desperation, but the barrier only strengthened their resolve, blending their memories into a singular force that pushed against the darkness. The entity screeched, its form fracturing under the weight of love. You will not escape, it screamed, but the power of their bond was undeniable, cracking the very fabric of the darkness. Before them, clutching each other tightly, Elise and Max pressed further into the doorway, now gleaming like a sun, the shadows dissipating with every step as the light burgeoned. Then it happened. The chamber erupted in a chorus of laughter. The once captured souls surrounding them erupted into joyous cries, rising like birds freed from a cage. They soared through the expanse, light framing their faces, and every flicker of darkness dissolved into stardust. Elise, Max, Sarah's voice echoed, pulling them back into reality, warmth aching in their hearts. The door finally closed behind them, sealing the darkness on the other side, and with it, every twisted memory. Elise blinked against the brightness, gasping for air, sunlight shining fiercely overhead. They stood dramatically back on the dock. Crescent Isle brimmed with life again, the eerie shadows that haunted their hearts now melted away. Mom. Max gazed up at her, trembling but whole. Did we do it? Yeah, sweetheart, she whispered, hugging him tight, heart soaring with relief and victory. We faced them. Together. His face broke into a broad smile, and Elise felt a sense of weight lift from her heart. As lingering night faded and shadows dispersed, a transformation engulfed them, sowing the seeds of hope that could never wither. The sun rose, silhouetting the harbor, alive with the laughter of families awash in splendor. We're home, Max sighed, nestled against her shoulder. The shadows of the past felt finally like mere memories. Elise knew that future moments would rise and fall, but now, they shone brighter alongside their love, a beacon for all to see. Elise turned to the horizon, confident that they were no longer just survivors. They were warriors. And with that resolve, she whispered softly into the radiant dawn, "We will always remember." Don't let this moment pass by. You need to subscribe now to follow more incredible journeys like this one. Smash the like button to show your support and feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. What did you think? And don't you dare wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends. Join the community that thrives on the energy of our thrilling tales.